Welcome to Go Rangers Radio, where the New York Rangers are always the talk of the town. If you bleed red, white, and Rangers blue, hail the king, follow the bread man, and know how to spell Capo Caco, then you've tuned to the right place. And now, here are your handsome hosts, Kevin DeLury and Paul Cuthbert. They're not always going to get it right, but you can be damn sure they'll pretend they are. Now, let's go Rangers Radio.
Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Go Rangers Radio, right here on the Go Hockey Media Radios Network, broadcasting live from New York, baby. Wednesday, January 8th, 2020, baby. Yours truly, Mr. Paul Cuthbert, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, your friend and mine, Mr. Kevin DeLury, KD. How you feeling, baby?
Tonight's show, my friend, I am fired up.
Wait, say that again, KD. What are you?
Fired up. We got the guys from We Bleed Blue coming in later in the show for our first ever, Paulie. First ever interview, first guest on the show ever. We get the Shestyorkin. Say it with me, Paulie. Shestyorkin.
Shestyorkin. Igor Shestyorkin.
Last night they were saying Shestyorkin, but according to some of the Russian hockey people I follow, it's, as I've been saying, Shestyorkin. So everyone at home knows. I do. I know.
You've always known.
We also have the Elias Anderson soap opera that is going on, which is becoming out of control, to be honest. So it's going to be a great show. Paulie, I normally have 3 mango White Claws before the show. I'm so pumped up. I had 5. So if I start dozing off halfway through, just yell and wake me up.
All right, I can tell. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm literally looking forward to talking to Brendan and Joe tonight because I'm tired of talking to you. All right? All right, buddy. Well, here we go. After 42 games, your New York Rangers are 20-18-4, 6 points out of the wild card position currently, 7th in the Metro, 23rd in the league, and 13 points behind the New York Icelanders, who we have 3 dinner dates with this month coming up after the Devils and St. Louis this week. And last time me and you talked, it was Friday, January 3rd. We did a quick cast, and the Rangers had lost their 3rd in a row. Going into Vancouver, they had lost their 3rd in a row. And I had said last week, before this game last night, that there was no way in hell that the New York Rangers were going to win that game last night. And to my defense, KD, nobody told
Excuses.
me they were putting Igor in the net, baby. They had a little zesty sauce to the game last night, and I didn't know that, so I want to pass.
No, and you know what? And when we were talking, we were definitely, pretty down on the team at that point after the two first games of that Western
Quinn.
Canadian trip.
Get rid of him.
Yeah, that we were a little tough on Quinn. Even I was, and I'm like pretty much the biggest Quinn defender, on the planet right now. And even I was questioning a little bit of what's going on. But I did say, Paulie, whereas you were completely wrong, as usual.
Oh, that hurt, KD.
I was completely right, as usual. And I discussed that even if they went into Vancouver and lost, as long as the process and the way that they played was the right way and changed, the shots on goal and things like that, I would still be happy and I would still view it as a positive. And that's exactly what happened. That was a game they probably should have won. The defense really came that night after letting up 40-plus goals 2 nights in a row or 2 games in a row in Calgary and Edmonton. And despite the loss, they looked very good in that game. And it seemed to carry over, into the Colorado game. The defense, the last 2 games, it may have been the 2 best defensive efforts that I've seen from this team all year.
Hold, you know what, buddy? I can't wait until 9:30 when Brendan and Joe come on. This is sickening. You were stark raving mad just like the rest of us at the end of that episode last week. Come on, give me a break. You're sickening. Now, it's, look, they did it. Look, I'm always the first one to say, prove me wrong, baby, and they did it last night. But it looked good for me there, down 2-0 in the first period there. A little shaky. But, man, did you hear everything else? The defense looked good. Not as many errors as usual. They spread the scoring around a little bit last night. But, come on, Colorado was tired. I think they played the night before, the altitude adjustment and all that stuff. It's only one game, KD. The pain could come back right back tomorrow night against Jersey, buddy.
Well, and if it continues, with the trends that it's been all year, they will lose tomorrow because, as you've said time and again, the only thing consistent about this team is that they're inconsistent.
Yes,
so, to come off, a big win against Colorado, they had the nice effort against Vancouver, even though they lost. You think, hey, maybe they're starting to figure it out. So, we've thought that a couple of times this season, and then, they went right back down the tube. So, I expect and I've been pretty good at predicting these this year, Paulie. I predict a loss tomorrow against the Devils just because of what's been happening all year. It's their MO.
Well, I tell you what, before we get to New Jersey and the St. Louis game this weekend and then, the Islanders next week and all that other stuff, and there's some fun stuff coming up, and Brendan and Joe from WeBleedBlue.com are coming on a little later to talk about it. We'll have a lot of fun. They have the Coliseum invasion going on there next week as well, too. But let's sit back and talk about last night. Let's enjoy it. I think everybody in Ranger Land, Ranger Podcast, Ranger Media, everything else, ourselves included here, when are they going to bring Igor up? The goaltending situation, what's going on here? Hank, Georgie, it's facing a lot of rubber. We're going to get prospects. What's going on? And then, sure enough, and we talked about this too, like I was always saying, there's the two most important guys watching this team right now, especially through the struggles that they were going through before the game last night, is JD and Gorton. And obviously, I'm always looking for Quinn to shake things up and stuff like that. And sure enough, they did. And it caught everybody by surprise, which was fantastic. And the kid comes in there last night, does a hell of a job, 29 saves. They get the win against the highest scoring team in the league right now. I'm an Avs fan, on the side there. I used to live in Colorado. I love what they're doing there, too. They've got so much talent there up and down that squad. And, they were a little tired, a little traveling stuff, but I'm not going to take anything away from the Rangers turning things around last night. But you take me through it. I was working last night, so I got to see bits and pieces and a lot of the highlights. But, KD, take it through, your feelings about, number one, the announcement that he was getting the start, and then, take us through your vibes through the game.
Yeah, I think pretty much Shesterkin pretty much just forced his way on the roster at this point. I mean, he led the AHL in wins, goals against, and save percentage. I just don't think the Rangers could justify having him down there any longer. It was a bit of a surprise to bring him up, especially against the Avalanche, who are one of the best offensive teams in the NHL. Might as well just throw the kid to the fire, sink or swim. So, it was a bit of a surprise, and the fact that they obviously still have Lundqvist and Georgiev up. So now you have this sort of 3 goalie rotation, and I'm sure we'll get into that after we discuss, Shesterkin's performance last night, and you wonder how that's going to sort of work out. And, when you're a goaltender, especially a young kid, and you're in your first NHL game, and, you want to get a save early. You want to get a shot early. And, he didn't see his first shot on goal until almost the 5-minute mark. So he was sitting there in the crease waiting for that shot for 5 minutes. And of course, in typical Ranger fashion, which, what else is new? First shot on goal, tip in right past them, goal. So the first shot the kid sees, he had to wait 5 minutes to see it, and it ends up in the back of the net. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the Rangers defense was actually playing very well, and it's almost you almost didn't want them to, because the kid, I'm sure, wanted to see some rubber. So now, he made a nice save on the next shot, and then the third shot he sees is a breakaway by McKinnon. So now he has 3 shots on goal, 2 of which have gone in. So, that is just absolutely not the way he wants to start, his NHL career. But, give credit where credit due. The kid dug deep, really showed some mental sort of fortitude there. And he only let in one more goal the rest of the way. Some goaltender who may not be as mentally tough may have wilted there and could have been out of there before the first intermission. But he hung in there. And, I'm very encouraged from what I saw. The kid is quick as lightning in there. He's like a cat in there, side to side, post to post. His lateral movements are
he should have got that
world.
second goal. Come on, don't sugarcoat it. He should have got that second goal. He didn't get over there fast enough.
No, I mean, he really impressed. He didn't have a ton of work, which I guess is a good thing in his NHL debut against a team like the Avalanche, which is a good thing. But, from what I saw, you could see the skill level there. If he can keep this up, he's going to have a nice, long NHL career here, the heir apparent to Henrik Lundqvist. And, I was very encouraged with what I saw last night.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, put yourself, in his shoes. I mean, these Russian kids are just, for the most part, and especially in the goaltending side, what we've seen from Georgiev, outside of him losing his cool there a little bit last week or so. But, just picture yourself, that kid getting called up. It's also an NBC national game last night, too. So his buddy Milbury last night, and, was there to give him credit and everything else. But
what a disaster Milbury is. He's sitting. It's the third period. The kid is having a real good game, and he's saying he looks shaken in there, and he's off his game or whatever he was saying. And what was great was immediately after he said that, Shesterkin made like 2 or 3 like point blank saves, like right in a row. And Pierre was like, the kid is on his game right now, and it was just like radio silence from Milbury. It was fantastic.
Yeah, well, he does that quite often there on that show.
It was unbelievable. He's saying he doesn't look comfortable in there, and he's supposed to be the superstar, and I'm not seeing it right now.
And I don't get it. Milbury's a veteran. He's a coach. He's played. He's an analyst and everything else. I mean, that's what I was trying to say before. Picture yourself, that kid, putting on that gear that night, getting down to New York City. You're playing at the Garden. It's a packed house, NBC, national. The team's in a bit of a spin right now. They're looking for some kind of shining light, and that's the other thing too is I don't know what your take is on this. Just the simple reason, Quinn says in his his press conference that he worked his way in, he earned the spot here. We all talked about it. We talked about it in the sense like when do they give him a shot or why not give him a shot? Do you think that the Rangers basically just went to him and said, "Hey, we got to shake things up here because it's not happening"? And what was really quiet. I didn't see it, but obviously Hank was backing him up, and everybody with the nostalgia and the pictures at the end of the game, and maybe the handing of the the baton to the next kid and everything. Nobody said a word about Georgiev. He's not even in the stories from what I've seen so far. But where do you place that? Start with what do you think the Rangers put him in nets last night?
Yeah, I do, and I mentioned it before. I just think he forced his way onto the roster. I just think
But KD, when you say he forced his way onto the roster, they've got 2 world-class goaltenders on. I think maybe they threw him on there because they needed a change in the flow.
I maybe, but I also think that Shesterkin also has that clause in his contract that Kravtsov has. So I think they see how well he's doing or how well he was doing in the AHL. And maybe they started getting concerned that he was getting a little antsy down there and that if he didn't get his shot soon, maybe he would have taken advantage of that clause and said, you know what? I'm doing everything I can down here. I'm leading the AHL in wins, in save percentage, in goals against, and I still can't get a chance up there. So, I think that they may have started getting worried about that and say, look, let's get this kid a little taste and let's see what he could do at this level. I also do think that Lundqvist and Georgiev have not been on their game lately either. So it may have been sort of, putting them on notice as well, saying, look, we got this, superstar potentially in the making down in the AHL. You guys better step up right now, because I do feel as though Quinn was ready to hand the starting job to Georgiev a couple of times this season. And I felt like he's faltered each time he was given that opportunity. So, yeah, I mean, maybe he was, whether it's the team or whether it's, Lundqvist and Georgiev, that